Welcome back to the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast. My name is Tim Kotzman. I've got my orange Celsius. This is not sponsored by Celsius, but orange Celsius is delicious. I'm here with the one, the only, Adam Livingston. This episode is brought to you by caffeine. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Yes, it sure is. I got the Starbucks, you got the Celsius. We're both highly caffeinated, Tim. We're going to bring the energy for the audience
all
today.
The way around.
Love it.
All the way around.
Let's go.
I'm so curious. What is your background? I heard rumors that you had long form posts and then you just kind of exploded onto the scene with videos. Can you walk us through a little bit of your background and how you arrived at such stardom at such a young age?
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like me to go all the way back to like my background in terms of my Bitcoin background, professional background, starting on X, YouTube? Where would you like me to start? I'm game for whatever.
I have a feeling we can cover it all because you don't talk extremely slowly. So I think we can fit it all in. So as far back as you'd like to go, feel free.
So I'll just start with my Bitcoin journey. It really began kind of in a sense before Bitcoin even came out, honestly. I was huge into politics as a 13 to 14-year-old kid in high school when Ron Paul was running for president in 2008. My dad loved John McCain. He was a hardcore Sarah Palin, John McCain, Republican guy. But you know, I was more young, and those audiences really geared toward the more libertarian, anarcho-capitalist people. So supported Ron Paul in 2008. I was 13 to 14. I was an autodidact reading Wikipedia for 8 hours a day, coming home, just reading Wikipedia till midnight on Austrian economics, corporate finance, literally anything that you could think of. And, you know, unfortunately, Ron Paul didn't win. That said, after the election, Bitcoin comes about, and then through the next presidential campaign that Ron Paul was in 2012, Bitcoin was the hottest thing ever in those libertarian anarcho-capitalist circles. So I was introduced really early. I think I first bought Bitcoin in 2011 as a 16-year-old kid, maybe. So I actually ended up losing it. Believe it or not, I had a crappy little Android cell phone, had a software wallet called Mycelium, and unfortunately lost the phone for like 4 years. So I wasn't totally orange-pilled or anything like that, but when I did find my phone, I found it years later. A $5 high school investment turned it into, I don't remember the exact number, but it was something like $700. And Bitcoin had forked into Bitcoin Cash, and that was an extra 200 or something. So that was the first click in my head that this is something really profound. So honestly, I went to community college for 2 years. Right around that time when I found that other phone, I graduated high school. I was a very gifted student, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So what I did was I just stayed in retail. That was like my high school job. I worked at a grocery store, stayed in the industry, and then moved up to the Twin Cities in Minneapolis when Hy-Vee grocery stores were opening up there in that market. So I opened up 4 different stores in a variety of positions and then really got promoted like once a year over a decade, and then ended up as a director at Target Corporation. And then I started my X account in January. Honestly, Tim, I got to thank you and the True North guys for bringing such incredible education on the most incredible story that's in finance or even in the world in any subject. You and the True North guys really shone a light for me, and that was just really fantastic last year. I was radicalized by Quant Bros. I think Quant Bros episode 2 is what really radicalized me, and I got sailor pilled. And, you know, I just thought there's such a huge market need and education gap, and I felt like I could fill that. So I started an X account January 22nd. Really started at taking it seriously about a month later when I had some post get me 500 followers or something. But it's something I'm very passionate about. I will not stop until humanity is freed from debt slavery. And so I'm just working on this full time now, pounding the paint, waking humanity up. And that's a bit of my background, sir.
That is awesome. Were you able to meet Ryan and Jeff out in Vegas or otherwise? Did you bump into them?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember you and I met briefly in Vegas as well.
Yeah, had some time with Jeff on a call. It was a bit before Vegas, which is really nice. I was like, look, man, you were courageous in quitting your job and just deciding to work for the network. He was kind enough to reach out and offer that kind of helping hand. You know, because it's scary when you're no longer relying on a paycheck, but you're really betting on yourself to bring the education to the masses. And then saw Ryan from afar. I've been a fan of that dude for such a long time. I got to spend some time on a Metaplanet roundtable with him yesterday. Just he provides incredible insight. I'm really grateful for all of you guys. The True North team just does such an incredible job.
Yeah, I was watching quite a bit of the roundtable that you guys were doing yesterday. And then as you guys were, I don't know, hopefully most of the way through it. I saw the notification of Dylan LeClaire starting the actual space, and I'm like, wow, this isn't great timing. And I saw like a couple of you in that space. I'm like, well, hopefully that was almost over. But yeah, a lot of action.
We loved scheduling that, and then later seeing Dylan schedule that an hour into our thing, because I honestly thought we could have went for 3 or 4 hours. So much exciting things to talk about regarding Metaplanet, but that's right. Unfortunate timing. The Metaplanet fans got a double dose of entertainment yesterday.
Yeah, well, it's like the audience just goes wherever it goes, and it sticks with you from platform to platform, space to space, video to video. I think that's what's so exciting and interesting about all of this. What's your kind of zoomed out macro take on Bitcoin Treasury companies? Because there's no lack of detractors, there's no lack of promoters. I mean, launching one in every capital market around the world seems like an interesting way to differentiate yourself. Be the first or one of the first in a market. Like, I guess, would you agree with that? And how else can companies kind of differentiate themselves? And maybe that lends itself to like the capital side versus the vibes side with the announcement this morning about Sunshine and Steven, and we're recording on Wednesday, June 11th.
Yeah, honestly, my perception of the entire situation is that you get a lot of talk about whether we're early or if you're late to a certain Bitcoin Treasury company or even Bitcoin itself. In my opinion, as it relates to the LBEs, the Bitcoin Treasury companies, the ballgame hasn't even started. I truly believe that. I believe that Michael Saylor punched a hole in the universe. He created the fiat vacuum. He created the flywheel. That is the most appealing financial instrument process that anybody can implement. And when you see the total runway of world capital that you can still access via methods that this genius billionaire is inventing with AI every other day. Yesterday I saw that ChatGPT 03 Pro was announced, and I thought, I wonder what Michael Saylor is going to come up with using this. The UTXO guys are doing such a phenomenal job putting together an amazing team, planting flags all over the world, tapping into these capital markets. If you put up Bitcoin as an asset class versus all the other assets that are in the world, and we see the funnel that it can tap into via Bitcoin Treasury companies, I just see the runway being so long. I believe that the game hasn't even started yet. I believe that every company is going to be a Bitcoin Treasury company, whether they like it or not. They're going to be forced to adapt. I believe that in bear markets as well. I think the ones that are relying on an underlying operating business will probably be able to sell a better narrative in terms of just their ability to withstand the bear market storm. That said, I think that the game hasn't even started yet. We're in the early innings at the worst, if I can phrase it that way.
Yeah, definitely. What risks do you see? Because I feel like, going back to my most recent career before putting on an orange tie was, talking to accredited investors and talking to prospects about putting capital into a private placement, private equity fund. And one of the CIOs that I was introduced to that gave me feedback, he's like, hey, happy to be an informal advisor to you. He's like, but you can't just talk about the features and benefits. Like, it's disingenuous. It doesn't build credibility. Like, you have to say, hey, here's what could go right. Here's what could go wrong, and be measured about it. So well, definitely, I'd love to talk about all of the wonderful positive things that can go right, but is there anything, and maybe it's not like a general overarching this is a huge risk and it's a huge problem, but just what do you see on the horizon where people could turn knobs this way or that way and maybe get off balance a little bit, or other just what risk do you see?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question, and we're really starting to see that as we see these players just coming out to the forefront so rapidly. And it's an interesting question because over the next year, you're going to see another 1,000. So I think selling the narrative about what you're doing and what your process is the most important thing, because that is how you're going to sell the narrative that drives investor excitement, which drives capital flows. And I believe that, you can distinguish what's going on exactly if you take a Metaplanet versus a Semler. Semler right now is having periods where it's trading under a 1 mNAV. It's not even having a premium to its Bitcoin holdings. And, you're seeing the narrative kind of shift a lot of the days where there's maybe it's FUD about a lawsuit, maybe it's legitimate. But, at the end of the day, you need to drive the mNAV because that's how you're going to get your accretion, your Bitcoin per share at a better premium. And the companies really need to think marketing. They really need to think, how can we sell this story to Bitcoiners? When you have Dylan LeClaire and Simon coming out with this 555 million plan, that's just absolutely incredible. They're able to communicate.
Go.
Yeah, right, exactly. They're like on the forefront with energy, communicating their plans at such a rapid pace. I think that you need to be very forward thinking and just totally sell the long-term narrative focus for the investor base. And that's ultimately what's going to set people apart because, I'm not going to be naive to this. I think a lot of people have sold some of their MSTR position to bet on a faster horse. And you're going to continue to see that people judging how they can get that highest percentage return by jumping from horse to horse. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think narrative is what sells.
Yeah, that makes sense. And probably, is it fair to point out that like all of this noise is arguably at least mostly retail on social media, and the fact that like a strategy is tapping into these other markets that arguably is like almost anything but retail. It's kind of like, hey,
100%.
Like, I don't think MSTR is gonna like be crying in their beer because a couple of retail investors sold a couple of shares to buy Metaplanet. Like,
no, not at all. That's not going to be the case. And I should have clarified that this is strictly retail that we're talking here.
Sure.
And what will be interesting though is as you see these companies begin to start offering these credit instruments like Strategy has done. So, it'll be interesting to see when you have a conglomerate of Bitcoin Treasury companies spread throughout globally, tapping these capital markets, and they're all offering credit instruments that paying huge coupons that are backed by a Bitcoin nuclear reactor. You start to kind of think that there could be some competition in the future. That said, Strategy has the largest stack. They have the institutional base. They're not going anywhere. I think anybody like selling them en masse to bet something else, not financial advice, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that.
Yeah. Bitcoin custody is evolving, and OnRamp leads this change with multi-institution custody, eliminating single points of failure. Instead of one institution or complex private keys, OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated, cold storage, multi-sig vault backed by 3 independent, institutional-grade custodians. No single custodian can move funds by themselves, providing an unprecedented level of security that traditional custody solutions simply can't match. Protected by a $100 million Lloyd's of London insurance policy, all transactions are fully auditable on-chain, never rehypothecated, and executed only at your explicit direction. This means complete transparency and control over your assets at all times. Beyond custody, OnRamp delivers comprehensive Bitcoin financial services, including lending, trading, inheritance planning, IRAs, and more. OnRamp functions as your private banking partner, coordinating key holder activity, removing technical burdens, and providing a personalized, trust-minimized experience tailored to your specific wealth preservation goals. Whether you're new to Bitcoin or an experienced holder, OnRamp's approach helps secure generational wealth with unmatched security and peace of mind. Visit onrampbitcoin.com today to learn more, sign up, or book a free consultation with their team of Bitcoin custody experts. Are you looking for comprehensive analytics on corporate Bitcoin adoption? Strategy Tracker delivers real-time insights into how companies are executing their Bitcoin strategies completely free. Monitor NAV premiums, cost basis performance, and track how corporate Bitcoin treasuries perform against the market. Upgrade to premium for just $3.99 a month and unlock exclusive benefits like detailed market rankings, real-time trading volume analysis, and advanced performance metrics for corporations embracing Bitcoin. Apply code KOTZ at checkout for 100% off your first month of premium. Strategy Tracker is your essential tool for measuring the effectiveness of corporate Bitcoin strategies. Visit strategytracker.com and gain the analytical edge in understanding the Bitcoin Treasury phenomenon. Join us at the Win in Las Vegas, February 23rd through the 26th, 2026 for Bitcoin for Corporations. Use code KOTZ when you grab your tickets at strategy.com, and we'll see you there. I mean, I don't think I even realized until I was looking at the Metaplanet deck yesterday that Metaplanet has Simon, they have Dylan, they brought on Jury, they brought on a head of investor relations, and I think there's more to that title. They have a COO. I mean, they have an office manager that's active on social media. I mean, and the Jury and the IR gentlemen have a podcast. So it's like they're messaging with Dylan to like North America or however you want to frame that geography. And they have Jury like messaging to, or at least speaking in Japanese as far as I can tell, right? So it's like even more so than strategy with Saylor and Fong. Is it fair to say Metaplanet is like just from all angles kind of like really masterfully moving along?
They seem to be orchestrating something.
Yeah,
you know?
like in the marketing direction, in the vibes, in the media direction. So that, I mean, if you also can't believe that there's literally no other Bitcoin Treasury company pop up in Japan to date. I mean, you would like, how long is it going to take, right? Like Strategy's been doing this. I love when people frame it as they've been doing it for half a decade. Like, how long is it going to take before other people are like, oh, maybe we should at least consider this?
Right. I mean, the fact that Saylor went on every podcast for 5 years before people caught on, you know, just telling about the infinite money glitch, and now people want to dive into it. It's funny. That said, like, I think you raise a very good point. I think Metaplanet's execution in the community has been fantastic. That said, it's really tough to distinguish how much of that was organic, rising out of just the public on X, just the climb that ladder, providing incredible analysis for the team, incredible price projections that gets people excited. You know, I had my fair share of that too. So it's really fun to see both of them playing hand in hand, selling that narrative. But yeah, I think Metaplanet's doing a fantastic job.
Do you think it's important for each of these treasury companies to have some preferred product, preferably, no pun intended, an STRD type product before a potential price drawdown in order to really be able to hit that STRD and buy back the common stock and have it be accretive and have it like have it to where any rational person may understand that they don't need to sell their Bitcoin. They're not in a tough spot? Or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic thing to offer. And at the end of the day, I think it's a question of, are you able to collateralize that product? Are you able to offer that? So I think that it should be a bit of a race to be able to get there, to have that stack of collateral where people can really take advantage of something like a Stride, a Strike, a Strife, because that's going to be so appealing to just such a giant pool of capital. I think the fixed income market is, I don't know, $140 trillion or something like that. So, that's just an insane amount of money that can be tapped worldwide. And you're 100%. It's just another lever that can be optimized for market conditions so you don't have to dilute your common stock. I think it's amazing how Saylor invented one game, and in the past few months, he invented another that, everybody's still trying to learn the first, but then they get into the second one. So it'll be really interesting to see how people can not only win that second game, but who knows, invent some other Bitcoin-backed product that people are going to want. And I don't know, the sky is the limit. These Bitcoin-backed financial products were in such an infancy, we're clearing regulatory hurdles. We're just on the forefront of it. So it's really tough to see where that's going to go. That said, it's really exciting. And yeah, I do think it's important that companies start to look that direction, but you have to walk before you can run.
Yeah. What's the answer? And I'll preface this with I don't know what the answer is. So it's not an easy question, or maybe it is. That's
I probably won't know either.
Part of what I love about doing these interviews is most of the time when I ask a question, or at least sometimes, I legitimately don't know what the answer is. So that's why I'm asking, and hopefully it's beneficial to you and me and whoever wants to listen. What's the answer to getting back on track and getting your mNAV above 1 or above 1.5, preferably, when you find yourself in that situation? Like, what can you borrow from what strategy and Metaplanet has done or is doing, or is there some other answer?
Well, so if you're beyond the hyper growth phase where you're able to drive a high mNAV by just being small and like just having a really intensive capital plan where it's the narrative sells it, where people just want to rush in, you're just going to see that naturally happen. But when you look at a strategy, I think Saylor's like tri-lever system with the preferreds was developed out of necessity. So that's one option you can do. I've seen also a lot of people just talking to Saylor about stock buybacks. Hey, that's a potential avenue that one could explore. I'm not advocating for that. I don't know that's the best answer. But, I believe if you're out of your hypergrowth phase and the marketplace isn't rushing in for a new Bitcoin gold rush, pun intended, I think that you really have to invent some other ATM system where you're no longer diluting the common stock. And then you're just going to see the mNAV naturally increase with a Bitcoin price rally. People are going to want a leverage return when they see Bitcoin go up 40%. That's just going to attract more capital. So really, I think the solution is a mix of all those different variables, and it'll be interesting to see what the leader Saylor does.
So introduce the preferred products is kind of like the base hit. Like that's
I think
core.
That it's such a phenomenal product, and the market hasn't even begun price discovery with it, and the demand for that's just going to skyrocket. So I think it should be a bit of a race to see, especially if you're like the first Bitcoin Treasury company in a particular geographical area location. I think, can you race to get the collateral that allows you to develop something like that? I think that, like I said, Saylor's invented that second game, and it'll be interesting to see who's the second to win that. I know that Simon and Dylan have talked about doing something like a strategy style preferred, actually. So they've commented on it. So at least it's on the radar of like, I don't necessarily want to call them the number two if 21 Capital has more Bitcoin than Metaplanet does. But that said, at least people are talking about it.
Yeah, makes sense. Super appreciate your time. Would love to have you back from time to time to check in.
Tim, one more thing. You're incredible. I love you. We had such a fantastic meeting in Vegas. I love you for what you've done.
It's the Celsius.
It's our caffeine, brother.
Yeah.
We love it. Got to bring the energy.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts, and where can people find you online if they are not already familiar?
Yeah, guys, you can follow me on X at AdamBLiv, and then you can find me on YouTube at Adam Livingston BTC. I'm also the author of The Bitcoin Age, Your Guide to the Future of Value, Wealth, and Power, as well as The Great Harvest, AI Labor, and the Bitcoin Lifeline. If you're interested about how Bitcoin and AI are going to interplay in the future, this is your number one resource. That's all I got, Tim. You're incredible. Let's keep spreading the truth. You're phenomenal. I love you.
Lots of love. Love the orange tie gang for the win. Adam, thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
You too. This episode is brought to you by Arch Lending, the premier provider of crypto-backed loans designed for both individual and institutional investors. At Arch, your digital assets work for you without selling them. Arch offers flexible loan options tailored to your needs. Backed by industry leaders like Morgan Creek Digital, Castle Island Ventures, and Galaxy Ventures, Arch Lending is setting a new standard in crypto-backed lending. Are you ready to unlock the potential of your crypto assets? Visit archlending.com to learn more and configure your loan today.
Europe's richest Bitcoin heritage site. Prague. BTC Prague. The biggest Bitcoin conference on the continent.
Join us June 19th through the 21st for Bitcoin Prague 2025. Use code KOTSMAN when you buy your ticket at btcprague.com. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Stampseed. If you're in cold storage, you know how important it is to protect your seed phrase. That's why I recommend you head over to stampseed.com and check it out for yourself. This seed phrase storage device is one solid piece of titanium. There are no loose pieces, and you can hammer your seed phrase in letter by letter. When you go to stampseed.com, use promo code TIM15 for a 15% discount across the website. That's TIM15.